Week 9 in the SEC gave us a much clearer picture of who's in contention for the playoff and who's falling behind. With 5 weeks left in the 2025 regular season, the conference could send up to 5 teams to the 12-team playoff. And here's how things shake out. Safest playoff bets. Alabama 7-1, 5-0 SEC. Remaining versus LSU versus Oklahoma versus Eastern Illinois at Auburn. The Crimson Tide are proving resilient. After a clutch comeback at Missouri, Alabama scored 15 points in the final 2:16 to beat South Carolina, showcasing their late-game toughness. Even a single loss in their remaining schedule likely won't jeopardize an SEC title game appearance. Georgia 6-1, 4-1 SEC. Remaining versus Florida at Mississippi State versus Texas versus Charlotte versus Georgia Tech. Despite some uneven performances in 2025, Georgia remains favored in all upcoming games. The Bulldogs' showdown with Texas could be chaotic, but Georgia looks well positioned to secure a playoff spot. Ole Miss 7-1, 4-1 SEC, remaining versus South Carolina versus the Citadel versus Florida at Mississippi State. The Rebels have one of the easiest remaining schedules in the SEC. With 3 home games and unranked opponents ahead, Ole Miss is likely to reach 10-2 and punch a playoff ticket. Texas A&M 8-0, 5-0 SEC, remaining at Missouri versus South Carolina versus Samford at Texas. The Aggies are one of the nation's best teams. QB Marcel Reed dominated LSU in Baton Rouge, keeping Texas A&M tied with Alabama atop the conference. Even with a slip in 1 or 2 games, their playoff case remains strong. Teams still in the hunt. Vanderbilt 7-1, 3-1 SEC, remaining at Texas versus Auburn versus Kentucky at Tennessee. The Commodores survived a nail-biter against Missouri and have a legitimate chance to make the playoff with a win at Texas in Week 10. A 3-1 finish over the remaining games would likely secure them a spot. Missouri 6-2, 2-2 SEC, remaining versus Texas A&M versus Mississippi State at Oklahoma at Arkansas. Missouri's playoff hopes hinge on QB Bo Pribula, who suffered a significant leg injury. True freshman Matt Zollers filled in admirably, but can a freshman lead the Tigers through a perfect November? It's uncertain. Oklahoma 6-2, 2-2 SEC remaining at Tennessee at Alabama versus Missouri versus LSU. The Sooners face the toughest remaining schedule of any SEC hopeful. QB John Mateer must regain his early season form, or their playoff hopes could be dashed despite a solid defense. Tennessee 6-2, 3-2 SEC remaining versus Oklahoma versus New Mexico State at Florida. Vanderbilt, Tennessee has a strong offense but a weak defense. If the Volunteers win out, a 10-2 record with key tiebreakers could make them a dark horse for the playoff. Texas 6-2, 3-1 SEC. EC remaining versus Vanderbilt at Georgia versus Arkansas versus Texas A&M. The Longhorns are on the edge. They need to win out in playoff contention. Close wins over Kentucky and Mississippi State won't impress the committee if Texas finishes 9-3. Out of playoff contention, LSU 5-3, 2-3 SEC remaining at Alabama versus Arkansas versus Western Kentucky at Oklahoma. Even a 9-3 finish wouldn't guarantee a playoff bid. Losses to ranked SEC opponents and questionable road wins make LSU a long shot. Other notable winners: Memphis 34-31 win over number 18 South Florida. QB Brendan Lewis threw for 307 yards and 2 late TDs. North Texas, QB Drew Mestemaker threw for 608 yards and 4 TDs in a 54-20 win over Charlotte, keeping playoff hopes alive in the American. Auburn comeback 33-24 win versus Arkansas for their first SEC victory. Wake Forest 13-12 win over SMU on a last-second 50-yard field goal, keeping bowl hopes alive. Delaware and Missouri State, both FBS newcomers, remain in contention for a bowl with solid records. Notable losers: North Carolina lost 17-16 in OT to Virginia due to goal line mistakes, now 2-5 overall. Kansas blown out 42-17 by Kansas State, dropping to 4-4. Purdue lost 27-24 to Rutgers after late game turnovers, now 2-6 and winless in Big Ten play. Minnesota smashed 41-3 by Iowa. Offense managed just 133 total yards. Week 9 offered clarity in the SEC and across college football, highlighting which teams are playoff ready, which are still in the hunt, and which need a miracle to turn things around.